Welcome to my beginner's guide series. This is the last video of the series where I'm going to show you what you need to build these white cubes you see over here. And I kept my landing pad. It is so cool. There's an achievement for that, although I already got it because I always keep it on all my saves, but anyway, I still like to keep it. And what do you need to do this? Well, you need a lot of stuff. So I just will give you a quick overview of what you need to build these white cubes. So I think the shortest version of this is that for you to build white cubes, you need to build a lot of all the other cubes. Let me show you the actual recipe here. So that's what you need. You need all those cubes plus, I don't know what these called, photons? Antimatter. Oh wow. So you have to grab photons and you turn them into antimatter and hydrogen. Well, at this point of the game you should already have plenty of hydrogen, but you can't really have too much because you need hydrogen to build the deuterium, and the deuterium is used to build the rockets that are used to build the Dyson Sphere. So you always need hydrogen. But the ultimate goal of this recipe is obviously to build antimatter because you need it for the white cubes recipe over here. And what I've been doing between the last episode and this one, i.e. from the moment I built the Dyson shell until now, I was tidying up my planet. So I'm going to show you what I was doing. And the reason why I was doing this is because for you to produce a lot of these other cubes and the white cubes themselves, and to feed enough white cubes to the research, you need to really ramp up the production. And I think an important step for that is to tidy up things, I should say. And I'll wait for the daytime to come to show you what I've been doing for tidying up. So the first thing I had to do is to create a proper mall. The mall I had, well, it wasn't really a mall, it was a random, a spread out factory where I was using several areas of the planet to build different components. It's much better to have what's called, say, a mall, where you produce the buildings you need to build your factories. So I created this here, and by the way, I have the blueprints for this if you're interested. It's not everything here, but this is what I would call a starter mall. It's the buildings I use, like 95% of the buildings I use from the beginning to the end of the game. You know, you have the smelters, you have the power plants, you have the turbines, you have the Tesla, all of this, and these the miners, all of the things you typically need. But you'll notice that I don't have the belts or the sorters or the assemblers, and that's because I find it's easier to create a separate mall for them, and that's what I did. So this, again, I have separate blueprints for this. If you're interested, let me know and I'll share them. And basically, just to give you a quick overview into my starting game, which I didn't do in this game, by the way, because when I started this series I still didn't have a mall properly built. That's why I didn't start that way. But anyway, I like to have the basic buildings that don't evolve or are not upgradable, let's say, in a separate mall, and then the buildings that are upgradable on a separate mall. The exception is this the assemblers, because I find the smelters, because I find that going from this one to this one, it's so far in the horizon. So you have to do this when you start, and this is a very, very, very late game and completely optional in my eyes to build, mainly because you need those rare resources. So I rarely build these in any of my playthroughs. I rarely build this. So I don't include them in my factory. The same with the traffic point. I never use this, so I don't build them. And for example, solar panels are also not here because they are kind of, it's not a late game, but kind of early mid game thing, and it's very contextual. It depends if you're going to planets that have good sun exposure. Depends if your starting planet has or solar system has enough silicon, which again, it's hit and miss. Sometimes you do have a lot of silicon, sometimes you don't. So I leave this like for separate builds, the ones that I not always build, and the ones that I always build, I have a starting mall for that, if it makes sense. And then these upgradable ones, I create a separate one. The motors are really key to build these this one, so I create also an integrated motor factory with the sorters, belts, and assemblers. And then later, so this is all starter, okay? So obviously I've already upgraded everything. Well, this is still Mach 2, but I've upgraded almost everything, I should say. Then on the late game, I did something similar for the late game buildings that I more often use. And that's what I did. So basically, as a summary, let me change the view mode. I built 3 factories. 2 for starter, that you can use. You need these buildings all the way through the game. And then the late game buildings I built here. Again, I have blueprints for this. If you want, please let me know and I'll share them. Then after I tidy up this, I created a small factory for the towers and the ships for those towers. And again, I have blueprints for this if you want to. And finally, I created a factory dedicated for foundations. And that's basically what I spent. I spent to create the blueprints and build all of this. I think I spent, I don't want to exaggerate, I think probably around 6 hours to build all of this. And this helps a lot because at this point of the game you need to scale up production. And if you haven't a mall by now, you will really miss it when you get to this point. So that's why I had to tidy up my base and have a mall for, well, everything I need for the late game. And then after I have the mall, what I did is create these separate factories for each of the cubes, and they are more or less in proportion. You see here, you have the blue cubes and then you have the red cubes, because the red cubes, if you notice, they are twice as big as the blue cubes factory. And that's because if you see the production rate of them, you need 3 seconds to build white cubes, and you need a white cube, blue cubes, and you need 6 seconds to build red cubes, so twice as many. So that's why I built twice as big for red cubes, if it makes sense. And then for the blue one, oops, it's 8 seconds. It's not necessarily twice as much, it's 50% as much. So what I did, I built 50% bigger factory for this. And same for the purple, and same for the green, and not the same for white, because I'm lazy to do the calculations, but that's basically it. And the reason why I built the whites this way is because you need 6 inputs into the whites, whereas all the other ones you just need 2 inputs and 1 output. And here, although you still have 1 output, you need 6 inputs because you need to feed it with all the cubes plus the antimatter. So you need 6 belts, and it's easier to build them in a row. And then I build another row for the actual research matrix labs, so I can visualize if my production of white cubes is good enough to satisfy the demand. And I'm lazy to do the ratio, so I try to build the factories so I can easily see that I'm producing enough materials. That's basically it. And I think that's it in terms of the big differences from the green cubes production of Dyson CFL. I can't speak. Okay, let's try that again. So the big difference from the previous milestone to this one, previous milestone being a hybrid of green cubes production and Dyson shell creation, is to tidy up your planet, because you really need to ramp up production. I also moved some of the production, especially the smelting of iron and copper, to another planet, in this case this one over here, so that I could release some space from this planet so I can build whatever I need of late game buildings. That's basically it. And now, because I build things this way, if I see that I need more production of, let's say, purple cubes, since I'm already here, all I need to do is to just add a few more on top. I'm just going to randomly click, so I build another, let's say, layer on top of my existing layer, and it's much easier to expand vertically than it is to expand horizontally, because it helps to lay out better the factory. So I'm just going to plop just a few just so you could see. And then, yeah, that's it for the production of white cubes. As you can see, I could probably put a few more here. and I try to add more to the research lab based on how many backlog or excess of white cubes I'm producing. But as you can see, you have to build a lot of towers of white cubes, meaning you need a lot of the other cubes just to produce a few research. So I have a few hashes to research, or processing power. I don't know what it's called. I hope I'm making sense. It's just really crazy the amount of production you need to research the late game. Oh, and I'm researching everything else except the actual mission because I want to show you. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to cancel all the next stuff I had on the queue, and I am going to trigger this one. And while I'm talking about other details about the game, we'll hit our mission complete milestone. Yay! A key challenge for the late game, when you have to research white cubes, is to produce that antimatter. Because let's take a look at the recipe of the antimatter. You need these photons in order to produce antimatter. So it's a one-to-one. So basically you produce one a second, but you also produce hydrogen. And like with all the similar factories where you have two outputs, one blocks the other. So I don't want the fact that, for example, I don't need hydrogen to block the production of antimatter. So what I did here is I built a simple factory, which I didn't complete yet, where I am requesting photons and I'm supplying these two. Fortunately, I have a lot of demand for hydrogen, so this is not an issue. But as a fail-safe mechanism, what I've done here is I use the sorters to prioritize traffic. Let me show you maybe from this angle. Prioritize all the traffic that goes to the tower so it can be used, and only the excess, so if this was full, only the excess would go on the top belt, which would then be burned out on these thermal power stations. Look how much power I'm consuming. And not just from the actual planet. These ones, when they are in photon generation mode, they consume a lot of power from the Dyson Sphere. And look how much I'm over consuming. So my shell is producing 4.5 and I'm requesting 6.6, mostly because of it. There's multiple strategies you can have here. As you can see, I will still be able to achieve the objective even with not optimal power management. And I'm increasing the size of the Dyson Sphere. I'm building it more. There's more parts being built. Let's unhide the back structure. So I'm still improving, and you can add more layers and blah blah blah. And another thing I sometimes do that I haven't done yet here is to use deuterium as a fuel source, so that I don't have to use the ray receivers to produce power. This way, saving some of the power of the Dyson shell to the Photon Generator. So this is a balancing act that you need to do based on your playstyle, I would say. I'd like to have, for now, I'd like to keep at least a row. Let me show you from a different camera. I'd like to have a row of ray receivers consuming energy, and another row of ray receivers consuming or generating photons. But it's probably more efficient to not use ray receivers for power, or at least on your planet where you're generating the photons, and use deuterium rods, for example. But yeah, that's completely optional. The easiest solution, and that's the purpose of why you need the solution to this energy problem, I should say, and that's the reason why you really need to build a Dyson Sphere, is because you need to have a big enough Dyson Sphere that generates enough power so you can convert that power into photons, so that you can use those photons to produce antimatter, which then are used to create the white cubes. And that's really, really important. And at this stage, because my production is still not optimal, it takes a while to build it. So that's why I'm consuming more than what I'm producing, because the building the Dyson shell is taking a while. But if you're not going for the long run, so if you stop playing the game once the mission is completed, oh wow, 40 minutes, holy crap. Okay, I think I need to fix it. 40 minutes? That requires 4 million ashes. Okay, I'm going to cancel this one for now. I'll continue later. 12 minutes. Okay, that's better. So I can finish this mission in 12 minutes, you know. And as you can see, it's far from ideal. I know where the bottleneck is. I'm not producing enough frame materials. This is my bottleneck. I was checking the production offline. This is my bottleneck. So I could fix this, but again, I'm still producing this, just not fast enough. So I'm not producing ships, because this is used for the sphere components, which are then launched on the small carrier rockets to build a Dyson Sphere. And that's the bottleneck. So I'm not building fast enough. So I could fix this. It's not too difficult to fix this one. But as you can see, you don't need to play this perfectly in order to have fun and to complete the mission. And that's the purpose from a beginner perspective. The purpose is to have fun. Well, even if you're an advanced player, you still want to have fun with this game. But you know what I mean. Like, as a beginner, you don't want to be worrying too much about ratios and stuff. You just want to explore planets, build cool factories, and beat the game. And hopefully this video was useful from that perspective. And that's it for this episode and for this series. I hope you found them useful. I'm going to quickly recap, in case you haven't seen the other videos, what I consider from a beginner's perspective to be the key milestones. So obviously you have the cubes production. At some time between the purple and the green cubes research, you want to start building your Dyson Sphere, so that when you reach this stage, where you have to produce the Dyson cubes, the white cubes, you have enough power to feed the ray receiver, so you can actually have photons, so you can build those white cubes. And then from here, because you will complete the mission will be completed quite soon. Actually, I should wait for the message, but yeah, the message will come. Once you complete the white cubes, or the mission, I should say, you can continue playing, because you have the whole star cluster to explore, and you can build all cool types of industry and Dyson spheres, and just have fun. And I tend to, until I feel like I am a pro, let's say, when I feel like I'm really good, at least the first 3 or 4 playthroughs I did, I would start from the beginning. It's like I would reach a mission complete and then I would start again. And as a beginner, I would recommend you to do the same. And only when you feel like, okay, now I'm a master of all the basics, I'm ready to go one step up, then I think you shouldn't stop here, because there's a lot of things to explore and things to do after the mission being completed. And again, I hope these videos have been useful. Do let me know in the comment section what you think. If I missed something, if I said something that wasn't true, whatever. I love to hear feedback, so do let me know what you think. And also, if you want blueprints about anything I built, let me know, and I'll figure out a way to share them. And well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye bye. Okay, no bye. No, not yet. What about the mission complete? That was the whole purpose of this series, to complete the mission, step by step, or milestone by milestone. So yeah, let's upgrade the production here. Let's upgrade. Actually, I don't need. I'll just add a few more here. On research, I should be producing enough white cubes, because they've been stacking up on those boxes you see on the right hand side. So zoom in a bit just to see how many extra. Okay, I don't have a lot. Okay, this is probably going to be consumed quite quickly. I think I'll also, I don't have more. I have to go to my mall and pick it up. Okay, scaled up production, and now there's not enough white cubes, you see. And there's not enough power. Barely, just barely. So I really need to build more of these. Holy crap. It's like these research labs, they consume so many white cubes. It's really crazy how much production you need to have. Oh, look at the blue cubes. I'm starting to run out of blue cubes. So what do I need to do? Plop more matrix labs on top of it. But look, it's almost there. Almost there. How many minutes is that? Can I see the speed? Click here. Oh yeah. 1 minute, guys. 1 minute and we are done. And there we go, guys. We couldn't end this without having mission complete. As you can see, it's not difficult. It's not it's a relatively easy game to start playing and a relatively difficult game to master. And you don't stop here. Well, I say after you are comfortable with the basic aspects of this game, as it says here, you can continue the game, and I would say you should, because although I got to this point, I have so many production issues to fix, and to me that equals fun. I love optimizing my industries, etc. And the reason why I'm having issues, I'll show you in a sec, is because I just scaled up the cubes production without scaling up everything else. So eventually I ran out of materials. As you can see here, the blue production already stopped. I don't have enough materials. The purple one is struggling. Green is still good. Yellow is still good. And red is still good. And I know because they're all, tinkling. But and the white cubes production stopped because I ran out of blue cubes. So if I want to continue the game, there's plenty to do and a lot of fun to have. And mostly, something I didn't mention I should have, is I already had some logistics, interstellar logistics. You can see here some of the nearby planets, but there's so much to explore. Look here. When you reach the mission complete, now that I'm more experienced player, when you complete the mission, it feels like it's just you just finished the first chapter of your intergalactic industry. It's definitely not the end game. But again, like I said, as a beginner, I recommend you to start over, redo things differently, learn from things you didn't do so well, and start from the beginning, because I think it really helps to understand the flow of goods and what aspects of the industry you want to improve if you keep starting the game from the beginning. I do think it's interesting, but or valuable, I should say. But obviously that's a personal choice. It depends how you want to play the game. And that's it, guys. Once again, thanks for watching. Do leave comments in the comment section below about whatever you feel it's useful. I appreciate constructive criticism, and I'll see you around very, very soon. Bye bye.